the Bespoke Parenting Hour with Julie Gunlock and Cam Edwards.
Hey, Cam, how are you?
Hey, Julie, I'm good. I'm a little tired, actually. I stayed up too late last night watching the World Series.
Yes, well, there's always a delay, a little bit of a delay on these, these podcasts. So, yes, this is the day after we are recording this, the day after the big Cubs win. So, yes, I'm tired, too. I stayed up as well.
And are you a Cubs fan? Because I know you grew up in
Illinois. I grew up in Illinois. Heck yeah.
So congratulations. I remember what it was like as a Red Sox fan back in 2004. And I got to say, I mean, you're right. This is a little bit of a delay, so we won't spend too much time here. But I think that might have been the best baseball game I've ever seen.
Honestly, the comments were that. Now, I got to tell you, my husband is from Ohio, so this is particularly exciting for us. And I will tell you, I am not a big sports fan. My husband is an enormous sports fan, and he's from Ohio. And guess who fell asleep? He did. I stayed up. So I feel like the super cool wife, super cool mom this morning, because I was able to tell everybody about that last play. And, and I got to tell you, though, I feel bad for the Indians fans, but my goodness, can you imagine if the Indians had won? I mean, talk about a bit of a Debbie Downer moment. I mean, God bless, but only Cleveland would have been happy, right? I mean,
right.
The whole world was rooting for the underdog here. So really sort of an exciting All-American story. And the funniest thing is I saw that, remember Back to the Future? Remember the movie with Michael J. Fox way back in the 80s? And they jumped forward to 2015. That writer, he said the Cubs win in 2015. So not bad, 1 year off.
Yeah, I think there was also some kid, I've seen this story going around, and who knows, maybe it's Photoshop, but some kid in his high school yearbook in 1993 said, mark it down, Chicago Cubs 2016 World Series champions. So who knows? I guess maybe this was maybe a little bit more predictable than we would have thought. But I don't know. I was surprised by it. My only thing was...
Did Rasputin mention anything about it? I don't know. I haven't checked that. I don't... Seems like everybody predicted. Okay, but I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go on.
Well, Rasputin, remember, he was around in the 19-teens, so he probably thought the Cubs were going to win. Oh, it's 1908. What's the point of talking about it? They'll be back there before long.
Right.
So since this is a parenting podcast, I am curious because obviously it was too late for your kids to watch, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
And, in fact, my 16-year-old came downstairs, stumbled downstairs, he woke up, he came down to get a glass of water, It was the 10th inning. There were 2 outs left, and so he just kind of stuck around and bleary-eyed saw the last out. But I thought to myself, growing up, I remember watching the '86 World Series as a kid on TV. How do we get our kids interested in stuff like baseball if they can't actually watch the big moments because they're happening so late at night? I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. This is a Cubs-Indians World Series, and we didn't have one day game for the Cubs. Right. I mean, that's just bizarre to me. Yeah, no, I agree. And to be honest with you, how I think you do is I think a lot of people let their kids stay up last night. I mean, I saw that on Facebook. A lot of people were like, oh, it's going to be a rough morning. Some people, I saw some parents actually woke their kids up, towards the end of the game. Now, that's not going to happen in our house because they'd just be a nightmare. They'd probably all start crying. I agree. I mean, it is really tough for families. I mean, this is supposed to be a family event and family-friendly. I mean, I think you and I would agree there's not a lot of family-friendly viewing on television now, so it is too bad. But I think also this game just went particularly late. A lot of games are over a little earlier, maybe not World Series games, but this one went particularly late, especially with that rain delay. Good grief. I mean, talk about Twitter and Facebook blowing up when that rain delay happened. Right, and I know, and they showed the radar, and it looked like it was got to be a much longer rain delay than it actually was. Good for them for getting the game in, but congratulations. It was a good way to close off the baseball season. It was good. Now I will tell you also, I did stay up. I say that I stayed up and was so interested in the game, but actually, I mean, I was interested in the game, but I was up for another reason too. My child, my youngest, developed sort of some canker sores on his tongue, which is really horrible because there's nothing you can do. Canker sores are a virus. They need to run through your body. But I'm not kidding you. I mean, he's 6. He has a little tongue.
And there were probably 6 or 7 of them on the tip of his tongue. So his tongue is all swollen. And it's one of those things where he kept, he was, sleeping, and then he'd rub his tongue against his mouth, and then it'd wake him up. So the poor kid was up probably once an hour, just up, would cry, would fall back asleep, and then would sleep for about an hour, and then would get up and cry. So it was a rough night. So yeah, I'm not between the late game and my child being up all night, I'm a little out of it. I hope I'm making some sense.
Well, okay, so my ancillary story is not nearly as bad as yours is, and I really hope that he's feeling better soon, because that sucks. But I crawled into bed, had to walk the dogs after the game's over, so it's almost 1 o'clock by the time I get in bed. I wake up somewhere around 4 o'clock to my wife poking me in the back, getting me to roll over so I'll stop snoring. So I do. I roll over, and I guess it's allergies, so I'm a little stuffed up. So I roll over, and I start snoring again, and she pokes me again. And I wake up, and I say, I've already rolled over. There's nothing else you can do. I'm sorry.
You could go to a guest room. Sorry.
Well, there was that. Yeah. And I think what I told her was, sometimes when you're snoring, I just let you sleep. That was my comment at 4:30 in the morning. Sometimes I don't poke you repeatedly to get you to stop. But
I got to tell you,
that was the reason why I got even less sleep than normal.
I got to tell you, I am so glad that my husband is not in any media job, so that he doesn't tell the world that I snore. So, yeah.
I think you might have just done that, actually.
Yeah, you might be sleeping on the couch now for a while. Good job, Cam. Well done.
I doubt that. I have a whole chapter in this, about heavy lifting about snoring and the things that you learn when you get married that you didn't know. And
she's used to this.
I realized very quickly that both my wife snores, and then I realized later on that I snore as well. And normally I don't get the poke in the back that I remember, but I guess I was just, fitfully sleeping because I was still so excited about the game that I watched. But that was
So this will probably be we'll probably listen to this later, and we're both rambling and not making sense. I realized that I said Rasputin when I meant Nostradamus. So I can't even get my historical facts correct. I mean, Rasputin, he was like some Russian, weirdo I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, so I'm a little off. You're a little off. It's going to be a tough day, but we'll get through this.
And we will muddle through. Some days, some days parenting is like that. You get up and you're like, oh boy, it's 7:30. I've already screwed it up. But you got to just keep going, right?
That's exactly right. It's interesting you say, it's 7:30, I've already screwed it up. I feel like I screwed up every day getting my 3 kids out the door for school. So last night, I actually went to a friend's house. They're having a massive neighborhood dinner party, and they're in charge of the main entree. So I'm helping my friends make beef bourguignon. They've never made it, so I'm just going over there and helping them. I mean, it's like 10 pounds of beef chucks. I mean, this is for a crowd of 15 people. So I'm helping them sort of make this. So I go over last night. They have 1 child, and their house is so civilized. I mean, it was quiet. The kid was polite. There's no fighting. When it was time for bed, they said it's time for bed, and he said, okay. It was so weird. I've never experienced this, right? And so, I come home feeling a little insecure, right? And then this morning, in my mind, I'm just imagining what their morning must be like. Hello, honey. Oh, hello, Mom. Did you have a good night's rest? Oh, yes, I did. I can imagine a totally civilized conversation. Meanwhile, I'm go upstairs and I'm screaming at the kids. It's just loud, and there's always fights. There's sometimes crying. And so, I always feel by 8 o'clock, I feel like I've damaged my children. I've screwed it up. Yet another, it never goes smoothly. I mean, I'm sure you're the same. You've got multiple kids, but it's tough. I feel bad about that.
Yeah, the one thing that has sort of saved us is the fact that my youngest daughter has her own bathroom. So she doesn't have to share a bathroom with her brothers. If there was, one bathroom for all of the kids and she didn't have her own, I think the mornings would be a lot more contentious and acrimonious than they are, right? But for me, honestly, for me, the yelling in the morning is usually because I overslept. And then it's, okay, everybody has to go in 5 minutes. We have to go, and I'm running around letting the dogs out and letting the chickens out and doing all the morning routine and then trying to supervise. And inevitably I come back in the house expecting that they're going to be ready, and they're just sort of blankly staring at the television set, and they haven't done anything. Their shoes aren't on. They haven't eaten their breakfast.
Oh, we never allow the television on in the morning, because if we did, it would be 3 zombies. They would just be staring. They wouldn't listen to anything. So, I feel one way in which I helicopter a little bit. I think my husband would agree with this. Is that we tend to helicopter a little bit with morning routine. We worry. I mean, there's a tight timeline. We let them sleep till 7 every morning, and they have to be at school at 7:50. And so, I mean, that's a pretty narrow timeline. And in that time, they have breakfast, they get ready. We try to allow them 5 or 10 minutes of play in the morning, where they play with their Legos. They go on the sun porch where we have all their toys, or they can read a book. Just calm them down a little bit before school starts. And then I have to make the lunches and, get their coats all set up. But I will tell you, I feel that we do, we don't allow them sort of to manage their own time. We are their timers. And so I feel like in some ways, I wonder if we hadn't been so strict and let them kind of get ready on their own and just tell them like the end time, like tell them, oh, it's time to go. I don't know. With 3 boys so close in age, though, it's tough. It's tough. So, but I think, I think every parent, even their best efforts not to helicopter, you still have moments like that.
Oh, you do, and but so I'm not sure that I would call that pure helicoptering, because to me, there's a difference between, okay, I have to step in and I have to, guide them so that we can get out the door on time, as opposed to if I'm not hovering while they're brushing their teeth, they could choke on that toothbrush. That to me is helicopter parenting, right?
That's true.
I'm scared, I'm worried. No. And look, as you say, you've got 3 boys. They're all pretty young.
They are, yeah.
And they're still, they're training, like what you're doing right now is you're prepping them so that by the time they get into middle school and high school, and they might have to get up a little bit earlier, that hopefully they'll be able to manage, they'll have that routine down, right? And hopefully they won't need the micromanagement from mom and dad as they get older. But, mornings are one of those times where even the free range parent is like, all right, come on, we got to corral you. We got to rope you in a little bit. Because, I don't know how your kids are. My kids, they don't hate school. They get good grades. They have plenty of friends, but it's still do I have to go to school today? At least once a week. And so, when you've got that attitude in the morning, if you want to get your day started, you have to step up and you have to be more engaged, I guess, and maybe even more demanding of your kids than you might want to be.
Well, I think you're right.
I bet that happens at your friend's house too, even with the single kid. I bet that happens.
Maybe. Well, I think you're right. There is a difference between helicoptering and genuine guidance that a 6-year-old obviously needs, and even a 9-year-old. But there's an interesting article in the Washington Post this week called "Dear Stranger." It was in their parenting silo. They have a parenting section. It says, "Dear strangers, please stop telling me my active daughter might get hurt." This was such a great. I know you read this as well. Such a great article where the woman talks about how she picks up her little kid from school. And they go to the back of the schoolyard, and this is very similar to me. I pick my kids up every day from school. We go to the back. I let them run around, usually for 2 hours, sometimes 3. Sometimes I get home, and it's after 5:30, and I'm running around to make dinner. But to me, 3 boys, I just need to let them run. It's like having shepherding dogs. Seriously, I just want them to run off that energy. And so she says she has an extremely active daughter. She actually talks about how sometimes when her daughter was just walking, she would get to Central Park just at dawn, and her daughter would just run for hours just to get out the energy early in the morning like that. So obviously her daughter is very active, much like my boys. And she talks about how they after school, they when the kids get released, they go in the back, and there's a bunch of there's playground equipment, right? There's swings, there's slides, there's all this stuff to climb on. But her daughter does not want that stuff, and probably much like my boys, because the playground equipment is boring. It's so safe, right? It's so small and contained, and guardrails everywhere. You can't possibly take a risk on this playground equipment, and we can talk about that a little bit too. But so her daughter, she says, my child runs straight for the 15-foot fence and begins scaling it. picture across between Spider-Man and Flash, and you have my daughter. I consider it I love this line. I consider it my greatest achievement that I have never lost her. Her agility is matched only by her speed. Okay, and she goes on. Her energy often wears me out. Okay, then she says, but I can handle my child. I've been doing it for years. It's the admonitions of strangers that deplete me. As my daughter scaled about 8 feet of fence today, rapidly placing each foot in a loop of wire as she ascended, her friends watched in fascination. One little girl gamely jumped for the fence and was making a decent attempt to climb when her father scolded her. "We don't climb fences," he said loudly, making sure I heard him. I absorbed the assault on my judgment with the passive face I've mastered for such moments. Then she goes on to talk about how the many, many times people often offer her advice on her own child, saying, you should get down. She even says that one woman, while she was standing there and was clearly the mother of this little girl, this woman approached her daughter and said, "Get down." And this woman had to say, she's fine. She's fine. She's quite capable. And so, she talks about, how it's hard on her to be constantly questioned for her own judgment. And she wishes people would be a little bit more accepting of her daughter's agility, her good judgment. She says, "My daughter has rarely skinned a knee, much less broken a bone. Even if she had, I would not try to stop her quest for high adventure." I agree with this. I've often said to people, what's the worst that can happen? He's gonna break an arm. Yes, I get it. Yes, they could fall and they could break their neck, and yes, that's horrible. But you've got to make these judgments. And you've got to let your kid have some risks. And so I found this. I know you read it too. I don't know your thoughts on this, but I thought this was a great example of how other people, taking the slings and arrows of these total strangers who pass judgment on your parenting is very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is hard for free rangers having to take these kind of snide remarks.
Absolutely. And, again, if you respond in kind, then all of a sudden you're the jerk parent, right?
Right.
So you do have to bite your tongue. But at the same time, you want to stand up for yourself and you want to stand up for your kid, but you also want to stand up for your parenting style. I know we've talked about that sort of parental peer pressure that we all get. And I think that it is. This is one of the nice things, I guess, about living in a rural area is that I don't constantly have other parents hovering and second guessing my parenting skills.
Right.
Because I can imagine, if you're there and you're one of 10 or 20 parents, and you're letting your kid do something that is completely okay for your kid, and all of the other parents are flipping out, and they're telling you, well, listen, if your kid's doing that, then my kid's going to want to do that, so your kid can't do that.
Right.
I'm sorry, but if you don't want your kid climbing a fence, then you explain to your kid why you don't trust him, why she's not capable enough, in your opinion. But you as a parent can't hold your own kids back just because it makes other parents uncomfortable.
But the thing is, Cam, is I actually you can. And I'm actually one of those people that does that sometimes, and I'm so ashamed of that. But I sometimes do. I wrote an article probably last year called "I'm an Apology Parent," and it was actually a call for more parents to be. Yeah, and it was actually I talked about how if something happens on the playground, I often just assume it's my children and start apologizing, right? If a kid starts crying, I'm like, who hit him? Which of my children hit him, right? And I'm always falling all over myself, apologizing. And it's actually I've gotten better about it because it got to the point where, my kids started to feel like, Mom, I didn't do anything and you're apologizing on my behalf and I didn't, and it's bad. It was sort of a bad tendency. So I think I've hit a good middle ground where I try to figure out the facts. And I've become a little bit more defensive of my kids because, they're not these scoundrels. But it took me a while. It's just in me to always feel sort of the need to apologize. And I will tell you that when you're an apology parent, and I think there's a group of parents that are very apologetic about everything their kid does. You do tend to tell your kids not to do things so that you don't rock the apple cart. And that's bad. That's why this article resonated with me so much. This last paragraph, she talks about how her and her daughter were in this park, and that her daughter began to scale a fence, and then jump off this really high ledge, and of course she's sitting there watching as people are walking by, and she said, an elderly woman with silver hair walking with the assistance of a cane had stopped to watch my child. The older woman said, your daughter is willful and determined. I wish all children, especially girls, were allowed to roam free. May she never change. With that, the woman continued down the path, and I nearly collapsed in tears. And then this last line just kills me. It says, it is folly to depend on the kindness of strangers, but it is an utter joy to receive it without any expectation. And I mean, that actually, I'm tearing up right now just reading that. And when I read it for the first time, because that's exactly how I react. I always feel like people are going to criticize me or criticize my kids. And then when I get complimented or when someone says like, hey, it's really good that you're letting them roam free or you're not hovering over them, oh, it is such a relief because our culture, it's not just filled with helicopter parents, and it really, really is. People claim they're not, but they are. And and I've talked about this, how I struggle with it, but it's just filled with these judgmental people who think it's okay to tell me, whether it's me leaving my kid in the car. I mean, Cam, I can't even tell you, since that FBI agent chastised me for leaving my kids in the car, I occasionally do, but generally I'm dragging them in now because he won. He scared me so much, and it's terrible that I let that affect me, but I don't want to deal with it. So I drag my kids in the store. And so, this resonated with me so much. To get encouragement is so rare. When you have 3 crazy boys, they're loud, right? And they do things that are kind of like, oh, geez. And then to get any kind of compliment is so important. It's so nice. And so I wish if people are listening to this, it's like, try to hold your tongue. If you disagree with someone in their parenting style, I mean, I'm not saying like someone left their kid in a hot car. Like, yes, obviously, there are judgments, but people can choose to let their kids take more risks. And instead of just being silent, you might actually compliment them. It means so much to parents of active kids.
I listen, I cannot agree with you more. I do wonder if this had been a little boy, if that older lady would have said the same thing. Like, oh, I think it's great. Your son's so willful and rambunctious, because I also think that boys come under some extra pressure. And, just being a boy sometimes it seems like it's not allowed, because you're loud, because you're rambunctious, because you like to, roughhouse. And, those things are all sort of frowned upon.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And so, if you have a rowdy kid or a kid who, is a rough and tumble boy, I think you also get in for some, cultural shaming there, because you're supposed to raise a snowflake. You're supposed to raise a sensitive ponytail guy.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Yeah. You see these articles where we're like, oh, look, this little boy loves nail polish and wants to wear a tutu. Isn't that wonderful? Woohoo! Hooray! And then, like, if a boy exhibits, like, true, like frankly, traditional boy things, like wanting to, like, jump off a cliff or, like, pretend murder his brother, then, that it's like, oh, this child. But if a girl did that, God bless. I know you're totally right. There's a definite double standard there.
Yeah. It would be empowering. For a little girl. But, even normal things like, so my youngest son, who's now 11, when he and his twin sister were probably 3, and he got it in his head that he wanted to take ballet. And I said, okay. And so we took him to a ballet lesson. And I was fine with it, whatever. Yeah. He comes home and he's just kind of scowling on the way home. I'm like, what's the matter, buddy? He's like, that wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I was like, well, I'm sorry. What were you expecting? He was like, freeform jazz. And that's what he wanted. He just wanted to dance. He didn't want to learn stuff. He just wanted to have that time where he could just dance. And I said, all right, well, let's go home. We'll have a daddy dance party. We put on some music and we danced around the living room, and that was fine. He never asked to go back to ballet. I would have taken him if he wanted to. But, this is also the kid who likes to, roughhouse with his brother and sister. And that's fine. I mean, kids are, I think we, as you say, look, we are constantly, I don't want to say spying, but we're constantly looking in on our neighbors and our friends and sometimes total strangers and their parenting skills, whether it's in person or on social media. We are constantly making these judgments, about what we see. And sometimes I just think that, look, I mean, it's really old, good advice. to remove the beam from your own eye before you start dealing with the mote in your neighbors, right? Worry about your own kids before you start worrying about somebody else's kids. But look, I mean, culture and technology just make it really, really easy these days to get in other people's business.
Yeah. They're just really, it just, I don't know. This article really, I thought was such just a really well done article. I think you're right about, it's interesting about the sort of gender issue here. She actually talks about, would people complain if her daughter was a boy? Because they would expect that more from boys. So in some ways, and I don't know that I agree with the claim that this is sexism, but she kind of makes the point that they expect her daughter to be more cautious and want to play with dolls and want to color and sit in the kitchen table and honestly, I have friends with daughters, and that's what they do. They color and they play with puzzles, and they're so nice and quiet, right? And so, so yes, this little girl definitely seemed a lot more like my little boys, which is probably why it resonated with me so much. But it's funny that you could point out sort of the reverse sexism where instead of being complimented, and she's obviously dealing with with people being like concerned about her daughter doing risky things, but I get the scowls and I think it's interesting because it's more. I feel like the judgment is more a reflection on me. Like, you're a bad mom. You haven't taught your boys to be polite and calm, and this. So I take it very personally. But I just think people have certain expectations of children in general, and they are really hard. I can relate to that a bit too. Before my husband's, my sister-in-law, my husband's twin sister, actually, she had children much earlier than I did. And I remember, sort of observing interactions with her children and sort of having this idea that, I would like do things differently or I would be a different parent. And now, I have no such judgments now, right? When I see other parents, because I've been there and I have 3 kids that are stair steps. They are 18 months apart and 20 months apart. And they are so different. They are so different. And so it's amazing to me, so it's not necessarily like I have one parenting style and my children have turned out exactly the same. I do have one parenting style, and they are all, they act in different ways. So you realize that, it's parenting is truly a challenge. I just feel like I have a lot more sympathy now that obviously, this is not rocket science. Of course I have more sympathy. I have children. But I do think in general, even parents, even after having kids, people tend to be really judgmental. I think you and I both agree that that parenting is tough, both to just parent a child, but also dealing kind of with like this woman says, the slings and arrows of people who are watching you. So I hope this article and podcasts and movements like Lenore, move people away from that. And I think definitely people are becoming a little kinder. But this article was just really, really made a difference for me. I felt so much like this woman is going to make a dent. It was just a great article. So it's in the Washington Post. It's by Leslie Kendall Dye. It was on November 1st. So look it up if you can. It's a great piece.
To that end, talking about being judgmental, maybe the compromise is to be quietly judgmental, right? To be judgmental in your head, and to not actually say anything. And I think maybe a lot of us practice that on Halloween when our doorbells would ring and would open the door and would think to ourselves, really, you let your kid go out dressed like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. There was also the article this week, I think it was in the New York Times, about the dressing for, the costumes for girls. And I ran into this year. So my daughter, like I said, my youngest daughter, she's 11. Okay. She's really tall for her age. She's developed for her age. Mm-hmm. And we went costume shopping. Originally she saw this like steampunk outfit. She's like, oh, that's cool. She goes to try it on. She's like, this is showing way too much skin.
Right.
She ended up getting, I'm not kidding you, she ended up getting a poodle skirt.
Oh, right.
And like this, little sweater, and she went as like a 1950s a teenager because she was really uncomfortable with the outfits that were available for her.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, I wrote
don't know.
about this.
I guess this is something that you don't have to worry about as the mother of boys.
No.
They don't have little sexy boy costumes.
No,
right now,
they don't. No, they don't. And actually, it's interesting. So I actually wrote about this for the New York Post last year. I said, why is everybody trying to dress little girls like skinks for Halloween? I did not choose that title, although it was pretty funny. And I wrote about how I said these costumes can fit. Like I write about this one a military costume for tween girls. It consists of a sleeveless, belted, ruffled bottom tank top. Okay, again, this is a SWAT member. Okay, camouflage leggings and fingerless gloves. Because that's exactly what female soldiers look like, right? And
right. That's not very tactical at all. That's
right. There's a SWAT team costume for young girls, which looks more like an undercover policeman posing as a prostitute. It comes with a high-waisted and belted mini dress, a tank top with the word SWAT written on the front, which that is the only thing that identifies it as a SWAT team member. Fishnet stockings, right, and naturally fingerless gloves. The website suggests you finish the look with black patent leather go-go boots in case she needs to go undercover at a topless bar. So this costume was available to fit a 3 and a 4-year-old. Okay, I mean.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's unbelievable. Okay, and at Party City's website, they had a sexy policewoman costume. And the website helpfully instructs buyers that the costume is available in toddler sizes. Okay. Now, interestingly, for boys who want to select from, and by the way, all of those costumes, the SWAT team, the military, and the police officer, were all available under Party City's career category for little girls. Can you imagine? Okay. So for boys. For boys who want to select from the career category of costume, Party City offers 27 different choices. None of them were sexy because I mean that's gross, right? But it's gross for girls too, right?
The boys' SWAT uniform wasn't just like
it looked like an actual SWAT, an actual police officer. I mean, I went online, I did like this research before I wrote this article. I mean, no, there was not like this sort of Magic Mike police boy, right? It was all normal, right? Now, I make the point. That there's a market for this, and I get it. But the market is generally college girls, right, and college boys wanting to do this. College girls, they want to be the sexy kitten, right? They don't want to be right. But why in the world are they offering these sizes in toddler size? It's just so disturbing. Now, this year, Darren and I went to the costume store with our kids, picked out some things for the kids, and then Darren and I like to dress up. Last year, we went as the entire Star Wars franchise. I was R2-D2, Darren was C-3PO, and the kids were various characters. And so this year, and my little C-3PO, is C-3PO the little guy or the gold guy?
He's the gold guy.
Okay, I was R2-D2.
Star Wars fan.
So I was R2-D2.
I'm judging you right now. I just want you to know this. I'm judging you right now.
Well, I was R2-D2, and it was really, it was this dress. It was a dress that I had to buy like 4 sizes larger because it was so clingy, but I wore, leggings and a T-shirt underneath it, so it was appropriate. This year, it was really hard to find a non-sexy costume. So for me, now Darren, you could find anything, but for me, I mean, it was nearly impossible. So we finally decided on the Where's Waldo. There's a boy there's Where's Waldo and there's Where's Wanda. So that's what we went. But that was really it was tough to find something.
It is. This year my wife actually pulled out an older costume. So she was Betty Rubble. And the skirt apparently stopped like mid-thigh. It was sexy Betty Rubble.
Nice.
I went as Carrie the Label Guy. This was a homemade costume. So I was Larry the Cable Guy's erstwhile cousin, yes. And we actually did use the labels from our own recycling bin, Julie. So the Hot Pocket label, the Pop-Tarts, all of our processed food was on display for my Halloween costume.
It was fantastic. Now, you guys love Halloween, right? You guys are really big into Halloween.
Yeah, this is like probably my wife's favorite holiday. I'm still probably Christmas is still my favorite time of the year, but it's her big holiday. So she's feeling better, thankfully, and so she was able to do a lot of cooking, and we got the house decorated. And we had some friends over, and it was nice. You can tell you're getting older though, because this was like the first year that the Halloween party was over before midnight.
Oh yeah,
and, and I was okay with that. And I was like, oh, it's like 11:15, and everybody's gone. That's okay.
So civilized, yeah.
I'm quite all right with that. So
I'm going to take my multivitamin and go to bed.
Exactly, right? Because I'm going to get up at 4:30 and go to Denny's for breakfast. That wasn't quite that bad, but yeah. But it was an early night, but it was a good Halloween. We had fun. My daughter was ultimately happy with the costume that she picked out. I'm thankful that it wasn't like a sexy 50s costume, and all of a sudden the poodle skirt is now a micro mini.
Yeah, no. Good.
The poodle shrunk down to a chihuahua. So thankfully everybody had a good time. But I am getting worried because, every year it's just going to get worse. I mean, that's the thing.
Oh, it is. And there were no razor blades or poisons in their candy, I assume, right?
No razor blades, no poison.
Excellent.
I will say this though. So Halloween night comes, and my kids actually didn't want to go trick or treating.
Really?
Because this was weird. We had a party on Saturday night, so we had candy around, my kids were like, no, it's okay.
That's so sad. That's so sad. I think it might be over. You think they'll want to go next year?
It's going to be over for a couple of years, and then it'll come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, they may have reached that age where now they're too cool to dress up.
That's just terrible. I'm not looking for that. I will say that my children, if any parents are listening to this, now is the time to turn down the volume, or if there are kids in the room, because my children still are very enthusiastic about this. Of course, they're younger than yours. My oldest is 9, but let's just say they believe in all the characters.
All the things that kids should believe in.
All the things that's right. I mean, from the Sandman from the Sandman to the bigger guys, they believe in it all. And so it's we are a very festive family during the holidays. I tell you though, I think one thing that's I'm proud of myself as a parent is I try to. I hate this. I sound like this is literally turning into an episode of Oprah. But I do love to. I feel good.
Do I get a car?
I try to. Yeah. It's a call. You get a call. I feel like I try to, even in the morning when I wake up the kids, like I try to remember that this will all go away. This will all there will, and not so long. I will be getting myself up in the morning, and the kids will. Be getting themselves up, or they'll be gone. And so I try to remember that, and I try to enjoy each holiday, because it's magic when you have kids. It really is. It's really special. And I do know that a lot of these things, they're not, I've got a 9-year-old, so it's fine. I've got a 6-year-old, so I've got a lot more years, but it does end, and then you have to wait for grandkids. Okay, now I'm going to go cry. I'm going to get under my covers and cry.
Stop. Listen, it may seem like it's going to go by in the blink of an eye, but you do have several years.
Yeah.
But it's funny, like with Christmas. I know we're starting to get to the end of the show here, but with Christmas, like you probably still have a good 3 years or so before your oldest kid decides, you know what, I'd rather sleep in. Like that was for me the weird moment
that won't
when
happen.
all of a sudden.
No.
Never?
No.
Never?
No. I'm still the first up. I get everyone up at 5 a.m. Like, I insist everybody gather at my house, because I have relatives that come in and stay in hotels, and they are catching cabs at 6 a.m. Like, and I'm mad about 6. Like, I want everyone. The strata is in the oven at 6 a.m. Like, it is on. And then I will wake up the kids. Oh, no. It's never going to happen. No. I love Christmas so much. I can't even deal. This is making me sweat, even thinking about someone wanting to sleep in on Christmas morning.
We'll have to go through our Christmas routine as we get closer to the holidays, because I think our homes are probably very different places on Christmas morning.
Yes, I suspect. But
let's just put it this way: my wife is not the first one up on Christmas morning.
Oh yeah,
not at 5, not at 6. No.
Well, you said Christmas is your favorite time. It is my favorite time by far, and partly because I'm in charge. So I host and I have a bunch of family in, and I love every minute of it. I'm nearly dead by the day after Christmas because I'm so tired and I've cooked so many meals. And so yeah, we'll get into that. That's a great idea.
Okay. And then we'll have to talk about, our New Year's Eve parties. Hopefully my New Year's Eve party will last longer than 11:15 at night, because that would be really lame.
I doubt it.
If that wrapped up early.
12:01, you'll be in bed.
Yes. Having consumed my Metamucil and my multivitamin, and then I'll head off to bed. Celebrate with some prune juice, right?
Well, we are heading into holiday season here. It sort of launches with Halloween. We've got Thanksgiving coming up. We'll talk about Thanksgiving traditions and Christmas traditions, and it'll be a fun couple of months of shows. So
maybe next week we can talk about what to tell your kids now that the election is over.
Oh, let's do. Oh,
okay.
I actually, it's funny, I do a lot of, as do you, I do some media stuff, and I was asked to do election night coverage, and I said, no, I just want to be home with a box of tissues and a bottle of vodka.
Oddly enough, that's exactly what Shepard Smith said when they asked him, Shep, what do you, no, just give me the tissues and vodka.
Yeah. So, I guess we will.
Figures are thinking.
Yeah, so I guess our next show will be after the election. We'll have lots to talk about.
It will be, yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, this was fun, Julie.
It always is. Well, thanks. Thanks for taking the time.
You bet. Go climb some fences. Go help your kids climb some fences today.
I will.
All right. Hey, thanks for joining us on the Bespoke Parenting Hour. You bet. We'll talk to you soon.